Everybody's gonna win, yeah, yeah. If only you just believe, yeah.
Mainland 98.3 FM. Don't touch the dial. 98.3 FM. Don't touch the dial.
Good morning and welcome to Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM, the sound of Lagos. It's been an interesting week. Well, it's not the end of the month yet, but a very beautiful, beautiful week it has been so far. Today is Friday, the 25th of August, 2023. So thank God it's Friday. There's a whole lot to look forward to as well. I hope that, you use this weekend to reconnect with family, friends, and loved ones. So let's try to, keep the hope alive. Let's try to keep it positive. Let's try to stay, in the mix of trying to ensure that we get to a place where Nigeria is the envy of nations. I believe it, and I hope that I'm also able to convince someone that it is actually possible. All right, so we are going to be looking through the main stories on the front pages of our dailies this morning. I have my papers here: The Guardian, The Punch, The Nation, and of course, Nigerian Tribune. My name is Omobola Sandra. I won't be doing this alone. Fuad Sahid will be joining in via the phone line to give analysis to these stories we're going to be looking through. So we'll do this up until 8:30. And then we'll take a short break. So by 8:40, we come back for Mainland Focus. On Mainland Focus, we pick one or two major trending stories, try to flesh it out a bit, and then open up the phone line for you to be a part of the conversation. What a beautiful arrangement, right? Okay. But in the meantime, good morning, Fuad.
Yeah, good morning, Sandra. Thank God it's Friday.
Why are you happy? Share your joy.
Don't worry. Yeah, I'll tell you.
All right, then let's carry on. I'll start with the Guardian newspaper. Let's see what are the trending stories we have from the papers. I'll start with battered That's unfortunate. Battered national image. That is the major story on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. It says, "Step aside, please. The many troubles of green passport holders." Is our passport really that bad?
Very bad, Sandra. Don't be deceived.
Like the moment they just see the green passport, oh no, is one of them.
Honestly, Sandra, if you're a regular traveler, international travel, you understand the world step aside. I'm just saying the world step aside is that word that brings down the pride of any Nigerian. Maybe they see the green passport, I don't know what happened. There's an alarm that rings in their head, and a lot of Nigerians have stepped aside for a number of reasons. So not only about governance, I must say. Because again, if it's about image, it's not only about governance. Again, about some of the actions of Nigerians. Drug peddling,
internet fraud,
internet fraud, cyber fraud. And then added to that is a problem with governance, to corruption of our politicians, the way we also behave ourselves. So it all adds up, Sandra. It all adds up to a nation that is at the lowest when it comes to national pride and respect. Global respect is at the lowest, I must say, but it is what it is. I was once told by my parents that there used to be a time the green passport was so much respected. Very, very much respected. You carry that green passport with pride. But now it's a different thing. That's why you see Nigerians, they are so desperate to carry the passports of other countries. They want the passports of the UK, the US. They are not just not proud about the green passport. But again, we can get back to those glory days, Sandra.
I was going to get there. That is it irrevocable? Is it something that we can't reverse all of this bad perceptions or bad impressions that has been imprinted in the minds of some of these people. Because we have here in this report, from arbitrary airport screenings to lengthy security questioning, the plight of the Nigerian passport holder is unending, so much that even the bourgeois can relate when Bosun Tijani, the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, narrated how he felt embarrassed with the way officials at the Chinese embassy treated him for holding a Nigerian passport during the ministerial screening. Will Nigerian passport holders ever become proud or earn some respect again?
No, Sandra, we can. Like I said, it's a number of issues that we need to address. But I think every of the issue is on a particular issue. Leadership. Look at what Indians did yesterday, Sandra. There's no way you are not going to respect Indians when you see them. Don't you know? The fourth country to land on the moon. Those are achievements that naturally would, raise the bragging right of any nation in the world, and it's going to rub off on their national. If you understand what I'm saying. So that's what such achievements will do. But here on the other side, you keep reading the papers. What you see are issues of corruption, lack of governance. Politicians misbehaving. And added to that, you have your nationals into serious drug peddling. They keep get arrested in different parts of the world. There's huge issue of cyber crime. The 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 thing. The behaviors of our policemen. So when you aggregate all of that, there's no way. Globally, the green passport will be respected. Look at yesterday. I think 7 additional countries were to join the BRICS nation, and Nigeria was omitted from the list. And Sage was asking me why is it that 2 other African nations were added to the list of BRICS nations and they looked away from Nigeria, which is supposed to be the largest economy in Africa. And I said, look, it's beyond the economy. How you organize yourself. What's your business model? What are your policies? Policies are assault. Your electoral process is fraught with a lot of problems. Look at our last elections and look at what the international community has to say about our elections. Those are the things that add up to how battered our image is in the international community, Sandra.
Well, for her, as it is now, it's quite a long read. And in more recent times, I don't know if you remember, Seychelles is the only nation where visa-free travel was open to all Africans in 2018, as well as citizens of every nation, has now placed a restriction on Nigerian passport holders. And just for short, even you can imagine, it's very unfortunate. And as it is now, the idea of I'm reading from the report now. The idea of an African passport dates back a quarter of a century, but has failed to fascinate countries that fear an increase in smuggling, illegal immigration, terrorism, and the spread of disease, as well as a negative impact on local job markets. With migration, legal and illegal, blamed for recent outbreaks of xenophobia in South Africa, some of these fears seem credible. But Fuad, aside from the bad, the good, the bad and the ugly, I think there's. Do you think that there's also the good as well that makes them to raise eyebrows as regards some passports?
Maybe there's a kind of beef somewhere.
Is there a possibility? Because the fact that Nigerians, I think it's an established fact that Nigerians, wherever they go outside of this country, as long as it's not in Nigeria, Nigerians excel. And do you think it's a possibility that these people are say, for example, what happened in South Africa, the fact that Nigerians are coming here to take our jobs, Nigerians are coming here to take our girls, conversations like that?
Yeah, I agree that sometimes the nature of an average Nigerian is that we like to dominate. We have this stature, we like to show off. It's not in the negative light now. Sometimes, for example, we've had that in South Africa, for example, you have Nigerians dominating their business. For example, our Igbo brothers, wherever they get to, when it comes to business, they dominate you. They have that intellect, They can go into anywhere. They can go to a desert and turn it to, into anything, So, that productive nature of some Nigerians too exposes them to all manner of beef and hatred. I think we need to establish that too. They go into places and they say, who are these guys? Suddenly they come here. I think in some of the reports, they even say South Africans are threatening because most Nigerian guys are taking over their women. You understand? And that, South African women will prefer to even, go out with Nigerian men. We have the swagger. We have this clout. It's enough. Wherever we get to. But I must also say that, look, despite all the negativity that comes with governance, cyber crime, and all of that, look at our sporting sector. The great exploits of our sportsmen. Look at our women in the last female World Cup. Look at our, I think I was somewhere in Turkey once, and I met a Turkish national. We're talking, and what he told me was, "Oh, 𝗂𝗏. When I said I'm in Nigeria, I said, "Oh, 𝗂𝗏, Kanu." It was easy for him to read out the names of our footballers, And then what about our doctors? Our doctors, our scientists, making great exploits, all around the world. But like I said, it will not be enough to change the perception of the world about Nigeria until good governance comes to play, until our leaders put us where we are supposed to be. Because that's the foundation, really. That's the foundation. Like I said, I was marveled yesterday about what India was able to achieve. Forget about some of their human rights issues, the issues with violation of people's rights as far as religion is concerned and all of that. But there's no way you're not going to look at India again and be marveled about their achievement with what they did yesterday. So, again, it's about leadership. We can get it right. We'll continue to talk about it, and hopefully things will change.
Well, according to a Nigerian diplomat, Bola Akintorinwa, foreign policy under former President Muhammadu Buhari lacked strategic focus. And he said this is evident in how Nigerians were being treated. He said, and I'm quoting now, during the Mohammed Obasanjo regime, Nigeria was a force. She held her ground on several issues of national and African interest, and the Western world and international organizations had no choice but to succumb. However, this can no longer be said about the country. All over the news, we see stories of restrictions by other nations on Nigerians. And that's coming from Nigerian diplomats.
I think I agree that Chief Olusegun had a better foreign policy idea. I must say, I think I think we were on a better standing during Olusegun Obasanjo's era. A lot of things actually had gone wrong under the last administration. There was really no direction. I think Nigerians have learned a very bitter lesson about governance. It's not just about the intention to want to become president or, having the mind to want to do well. Do you have the capacity? Do you have the intellectual capacity to deliver? I think that was largely lacking in the last administration. It was largely, a lot of things went wrong. If you have a president that gives out jobs to ministers without asking questions until they go back to him. So what are we talking about?
Well, hopefully, what is the conclusion of this report is that respect for rule of law, sanctity of human life, poverty eradication, economic empowerment, and social justice are some of the concerns raised by Nigerians. Maybe if these are looked into, we may have a stronger image internationally.
Definitely.
Well, the story is on pages 4 and 5 of the Guardian newspaper. Let's get moving now. We also have this trending story. It has been trending since over the week. Yesterday night, since yesterday evening, actually. Confusion as court declares 𝗲𝗏 Labour Party national chairman sacks Abure. So the story is on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. So there's confusion over the leadership of the Labour Party as the Court of Appeal in Owerri, Imo State, removed Julius Abure as national chairman. And the court consequently recognized Lamidi 𝗲𝗏 as national chairman and the one that INEC should deal with in terms of candidates of the party for the governorship elections in Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa. Let us not forget, Fuhad, in sometime, some few months or few weeks or so ago, there was the issue as regards leadership of the Labour Party, yes, between Abure and 𝗲𝗏. And some weeks or so ago, 𝗲𝗏 had, the upper hand. And everybody said, okay, maybe we are some sort of...
As it is now, we have two judgments, and it's a complete confused situation.
And they are both high courts.
Appeal court.
Appeal court, sorry.
One in favor of Abure.
Yes.
Yeah, one in favor of Abure. Now this one in favor of 𝗲𝗏.
Yes.
I think the final interpretation to the leadership question in the party will end at the Supreme Court. That's the final level. Because, I was listening to the two lawyers yesterday, the lawyer of Abure and the lawyer of 𝗲𝗏, and both of them were giving different interpretations to this court ruling. But luckily, that's the beauty of the law. That's one good thing about the law. to have a final level for final interpretation, and that's the Supreme Court. So on this matter, I think it will go to the wires. The Supreme Court would have a final say. So as it is, I think we just have to wait till when it gets to the Supreme Court, because there are two judgments, and you keep wondering what's going on. And that's why you can see people put the confusion there. Well, let's just wait till when the Supreme Court, because I have to get to the Supreme Court for final interpretation.
Well, there's been a reaction from Lamidi Apapa, or the Lamidi Apapa faction, maintaining that the ruling on the Imo governorship primaries has invalidated all off-season governorship primary elections conducted by the Abure faction. So
faction, yeah.
Now would there be new primaries done? What exactly is the way forward? But then we'll follow the news as it goes on.
I'm sure the Abure faction will immediately approach the Supreme Court for stay of execution and all of that, for everybody to maintain status quo. Like I said, if you go to the wires, the Supreme Court would have a final say on this particular one. But again, this ruling again buttresses the fact that, look, for people who had always asked questions about the identity of Mr. Lamidi Apapa, whether he was even a Labour Party member, I think they need to understand that politics is not about sentiment. He is a Labour Party member. He has always been a member of the party. And the idea of thinking, he was planted. Yeah, maybe politics would have been planted. But the questions around whether he was a Labour Party member or is a Labour Party member, I think, has now been sorted out. He's a member of the party. But I think whether he's a leader of the party or not, the Supreme Court would answer that question eventually.
All right. Well, Apapa is saying here the Edo State issue more or less has to do with civil matters. The ESCOs in Edo suspended him, and they went to court because of that, and they don't have the right to suspend him. Talking about ward level now, as regards what happened in Edo State, because the first ruling was from Edo State, suspending Apapa. So, but the FCT restraining order has to do with criminal matters. It is between the state and Abure, and nothing is above the law. That's the difference between the civil matter and criminal matter. That's what they're trying to. Well, just as the headline probably connotes confusion everywhere. Just I don't know. But we wish them all the best. More details on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Moving on now, we also have here 24 banks lose 5.7 billion naira to fraud in the second quarter amid rising digital crimes. The story is on page 18 of the Guardian newspaper. This conversation still continues, I guess. And the report is saying financial institutions, especially commercial banks in the country, have lost 5.7 billion naira to fraud as of the second quarter of this year. As it is, cases were reported, and when compared to the first quarter, there's a 6.96% decrease that actually has been noted. But then, what is the way forward as regards fraud? Mobile fraud, computer web fraud, POS related frauds. Because those were the 3 most prevalent types of fraud that were highlighted for the cause of this particular losses that the banks are going through. But then what exactly is the way forward as regards those ones? I will get to find out. Meanwhile, considering the rise in the total amount involved in fraud cases and the amount lost, FITC, that is a non-profit professional organization, has urged Nigerian banks to strengthen their security protocols and system to prevent unauthorized access to customer accounts and sensitive information. I think, don't share your pin with anybody. I think I'll just do my little part. Don't share your pin with anybody. Don't click on every link that is sent to your phone. Always confirm so many things before, especially there's this new thing now, job application. You say you want to apply for a job, and then you didn't apply for a job, but you get a job offer as a text message. Please beware of clicking on those links and providing information that you are being asked. Very, very important. More details of that on page 18 of the Guardian newspaper. Now, also we have here Nigeria left out as BRICS admits 6 new members for global influence, as highlighted by Fuhad earlier on. Yes, the story is here. The BRICS, that is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, announced expansion of the emerging countries bloc with the integration of 6 new members. Conspicuously, Nigeria was missing, and Nigeria is the supposed giant of Africa. What?
It's not that being just a giant. Although the BRICS agreement requires that you have to apply, you show interest that you want to become a member of that economic bloc, and of course there are indices that will be considered before you are admitted. I think again they look at your GDP, they look at a whole lot of things, the structure of your business, some of your foreign policies when it comes to businesses and all of that. A lot of things that you have to put in place. But again, there's nothing that would put a country like Ethiopia, for example, ahead of Nigeria. Nothing at all.
I was going to get there because you said because there's a reason why the giant of Africa is in this statement. Because let me read out the countries that are here, so people will have an idea of why this is a serious concern for us. We have Argentina, we have Egypt, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates.
Yeah.
But Ethiopia.
So if you look at all those countries, let us even look at the countries here in Africa. Ethiopia and Egypt. Yes. South Africa has always been a member of the BRICS group. You can argue South Africa is one of the strongest economies in Africa. It's well placed as far as the economy of Africa is concerned. You can argue Egypt, also one of the most successful economies in Africa. But Ethiopia, it beats me into Ethiopia. That is even a part of Ethiopia is still fighting war as we speak. The 𝗙𝗵𝗵𝗃 and all of that. So for them to be admitted ahead of a country like, well, the question is, did you even apply to become a member?
Well, we were there, Fuhad. We were there. Nigeria was ably represented at the BRICS summit. For them to have been there, I don't know. I'm assuming.
You can be there as an observer, not an active participant. Just an observer. Like I said, we don't have a complete idea as to whether Nigeria really applied to become a member of the BRICS nation. You understand what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is that as the largest economy, there are questions we need to ask ourselves. Why would something like as big? Because again, this is a regional economic bloc that we're supposed to be part of, whether anybody likes it or not. The sixth largest oil-producing nation in the world, the largest economy in Africa, and of course we are having this. But again, it goes to a whole lot of other things. They probably would also look at the way we run our businesses, the ease of doing businesses, policies from ourselves, a whole lot, maybe our corruption index too, Sandra, will be a point of consideration. But as we try to rule out all of that, like I said, what would justify Ethiopia being on that list and not Nigeria on that list? Like I said, maybe we're not really interested and did not really apply.
Well, according to this report, it says here that no information was released on the content of discussions, the supports given, or the criteria used in the strategic choice of the new entrants. It says here that negotiations were conducted behind closed doors during a plenary session and at several bilateral meetings. Some 40 countries from all over the world had applied for membership or expressed interest in joining. But then it's not clearly stated if Nigeria actually did put in an application. But then it's all right. It's painful, but it's all right. We move. Stories on page 3. Yes, because it's an economic bloc. It's a huge
that we are supposed to be part of.
That we are supposed to be a part of. Yes. All right. Well, story is on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Let's keep moving now. We also have here 15 IOCs may threaten energy transition in Africa and Europe. That's on page 3. We also have diphtheria. Death toll hits 100 in Kano, 26 in Bauchi. So just very, very quickly, I don't think we're putting enough attention to the diphtheria infection because it is fast becoming an endemic, especially in the north. Yes.
That's the job of our disease control agency.
The NCDC.
That's why they are there.
That's unfortunate.
They just do their job and put, sensitize the people, put structures in place to maybe test for these things and find a way to quickly nip it before it becomes a serious pandemic. That's why we're against CDC, the disease control agency. That's their job, really.
All right. Well, the story is on page 28. It's going really fast, so if you can get vaccinated, please do well too. And finally, from the Guardian newspaper, at 1 hour a week, only 4.1% of Nigerians are unemployed. And that story is coming from the NBS. This is very, very...
I don't see it.
National Bureau of Statistics.
I'm not serious with that.
It says here that Nigeria's unemployment rate has recorded a dramatic drop from 33.1% to 4.1%.
4.1%.
To 4.1%. That's interesting. That's what it says here when they released their employment data for the first quarter of 2023, indicating that there's a substantial improvement to the job market in Nigeria. Of what?
Sandra, I've always told you that, look, a lot of the data that we have here in the country, if you subject them to integrity tests, it will fail completely. They will all fail completely. How would the MBS be telling us that, unemployment rate has dropped from something percent to 4.1%? Maybe what they are trying to do, again, we don't have the complete details as to what is put together to arrive at some of these figures and data. Most likely what they are trying to do is to say, okay, maybe anybody, for example, that is a laborer, all of those guys who just leave their houses, they go to where construction is going on and just find a way to get wages for the day, are also employed. Maybe they bring that as employment too. Or anybody that puts umbrella in front of their house and are doing little POS, that's employment to them too. If you understand what I'm saying. Yeah. But the reality of Nigeria is, I think recently we've talked about the fact that inflation, the issue of subsidy removal and all of that naturally has reached the level of unemployment in the country.
It is captured as well in the report, because it says here, analysts said the unemployment statistics with the updated methodology does not reflect the true number of jobless people in Africa's most populous country, where many have lost.
4.1%, Sandra, a minute. If it's 4.1%, that means we don't have an unemployment problem.
At all.
You can't be having. In fact, it means that we should not even talk about it. So again, I don't know where the MBS is coming from, but still go on with the report.
All right. We says here where many have lost their jobs as a result of surging inflation and where the government has struggled to create enough jobs. Well, the true unemployment rate in Nigeria might be more than the 33% recorded in 2020.
I think it's over 50%. Anybody can take me on that.
And that's from Akintunde Ogunshola, an Abuja-based financial analyst. He said many businesses in the micro, small and medium enterprise sector have been forced either to lay off some workers or shut down. Well, it's a very long read. But the writers says methodology defies reality. That's coming from the analyst, of course. Experts.
It's not just about defying reality. It's a complete embarrassment.
Defies.
Whoever brought up that methodology is just a complete.
And MBS is insisting that 92% Nigerians are informally
employed.
Informally.
Just see what I said. Yes. You see their data, informally.
Informally. They are informally employed.
They don't know what they are saying. They don't use. You know that employment there's underemployment, there's unemployment. And like I said, I think these guys just want to mess with intelligence. So I think we should just leave that story the way it is. It's a joke. I think the MBS just wants to create some comic relief. So let's just leave it at that.
Well, more details for that story is on page 6. You're listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. We're moving on now to the Punch newspaper. And the major headline there says, Naira crumbles to 920 Naira to $1. Fuel marketers push for fresh price hike. And there are riders to that. Fuel price can't remain at 617 Naira, with Naira falling below 900 Naira to $1. And that's coming from Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. And
when did the intervention, the last dollar intervention happen? Is it up to 2 weeks?
No.
And they say, the dollar is already crashing. The journalists are not reporting it. When good things are happening, we don't say it. We just want to criticize the government. The president has said he will intervene, and he has intervened. We are about to start to school. I said it. This knee-jerk approach, the panic response approach will not solve any problem. Now the dollar is back to 920. And I said it then that, look, no matter what you throw into the forex market as a form of intervention, Sandra, there is a structure that will mop it up completely. The speculators have the structure to mop it up completely. Now the marketers are saying, hey, we need dollars again to, That is why it is important to engage. It is important to think things through. Look at all sides. Like I always say, in policy formulation, there's what is called the start-to-finish strategy. How do you start? Where do you finish? What are the midpoints? What are the low-hanging fruits? What are the immediate short-term solutions to if this? it is not just for you to just come up and declare a policy and then you lead to this complete confusion. Now we are back to square one again. Okay, the CBN, because again, we're told that $3.something billion was got from the African Exim Bank by the NNPCL to be put into the dollar market. So where is that money now? What has been the effect? Okay, just for 1 or 2 weeks, and we're back to status quo. The same conversation.
Yeah,
and it came up. Okay, Sandra, and in all of that, we are not seeing a deliberate. I keep saying it. Forget about the timeline of December for the Port Harcourt refinery. I'm here, and I'm hoping that, God spare our lives. December is here already. Because what you hear now, you remember when we were questioning the idea of our refinery is not working, and the only thing we're hearing is, don't worry, Dangote refinery is coming. Dangote refinery is coming. Now we've shifted from Dangote refinery. It is now Port Harcourt refinery is coming up in December. December will be here again, Sandra. We'll talk about the issue, and it's going to be one excuse to another excuse. It is just that we are not ready to do the right thing. We are not ready. And as it is now, we are in the panic mode already again. PMS prices may go up, Sandra, as it is.
What? Thank you so much. However, I have just one question. So, if we have how much we have that's about 600 naira or so per liter.
Per liter.
Yes, 680 naira or so per liter to 720 in some parts of the country. And we have dollar at about 900 to $1. I just have a question. So, who pays that difference? Because if there have been speculations or some grapevine that maybe there's some sort of subsidy still being paid as regards our fuel. But what would be your own analysis of that? Because do you think maybe the government might be subsidizing the commodities secretly, especially based on this exchange rate reality?
Yeah, if markets are provided with dollars at special rates, then we are back to subsidy, Sandra. If that happens, and most likely we may get to a point where the government would have to look in that direction.
You don't think they've looked? You don't think they've looked already? You don't think there's any subsidy being paid?
Well, if the markets are saying that, look, they still don't have the dollars to import, and that if they are able to source their dollars on the parallel market, prices of PMS would have to go up. You understand what I'm saying? So, again, there are people already telling us that maybe subsidy has quietly returned, in the form of some of these interventions we are talking about. But I think that whether we like it or not, I said it, we might have a situation where the government would eventually keep the humble pie by beginning to, return subsidy quietly. It could come in the form of special, foreign exchange to importers. It could come in all manner of things. It could come from the NNPCL trying to make some interventions available so that at least, because again, if the government is telling you that PMS prices will not go up beyond this, then we'll ask the question, the subsidy back, are they regulating again? Is it about market forces? Because if it's about market forces, then government has no say. But I keep saying we didn't vote for market forces, Sandra. What we have been seeing is just complete inefficiency, lack of capacity in terms of governance. So I agree with you that we've seen a partial or stylish return of subsidy eventually.
Thank you very much for that. It says here in the report, the oil marketers have pointed out that since the federal government had insisted that it would not increase the petrol price, it must then be subsidizing the commodities secretly. Going by projections and analysis of oil marketers and dealers, it therefore implies that the federal government might probably be spending about 19 naira as subsidy on petrol due to the crash of the local currency against the dollar. It also says here that, it also says here, the president of Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Billy Gillis Harry, explained that in practical terms, one would say subsidy on petrol had returned. He said, and I'm quoting, "We heard the president's firm commitment to keeping deregulation on stream and also to ensure the sustenance of subsidy removal. One would say there is subsidy going by the rising forex and crude oil prices. But since the president said no return of subsidy, let's take it that way." That's what he said. So, but since the president is, saying no return of subsidy, then maybe we'll just take it like that. But then there's so many questions.
It will get to a point where you can't cover these things up again. It will get to a point where it will not be in the public glare that subsidy most likely have returned. Like I said, even if it's about providing forex to importers at a special rate, then that's a form of subsidy. But again, it's a points where, all of those things will be in the public there. You can't cover it.
All right. Thank you very much. There's also the statements and reactions as between the federal government and Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki over his comments that the removal of fuel subsidy and foreign exchange reforms of President Bola Tinubu's administration has led to the increased hardship for Nigerians. So, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Malam Mohammed Idris, said Obaseki was trying to cover his poor performance in the state by hiding under his criticisms of the federal government's policy on fuel subsidy removal.
Sandra,
Yeah, I'm with you.
I want to beg this Minister for Information to please not toe the line of the former minister, Mr. Lai Mohammed, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, where every criticism of government is met with a response that looks like a verbal or a personal attack. I think when the government is criticized, you should address the issues than addressing personalities, if you understand what I'm saying. If Governor Obaseki, the governor of Edo State, is talking about what Nigerians are already saying, I think because again in communication, Sandra, the best thing to do is to come up with a counter argument, a counter fact, to nullify whatever assumptions or criticism that's leveled against your government or your principal. So the idea of attacking the personality of Mr. Obaseki for me is unnecessary on this particular one. The question is, he should tell us what the government is doing about that policy and how about to alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians at this time. I've seen a lot of attack on Obaseki since making that statement. People are saying, oh, what has been his performance in Edo State? That's a different conversation. We can talk about Edo State. You understand what I'm saying? Which is a different conversation entirely. But we are talking here about subsidy removal and the forex issue and what it has brought onto Nigerians. If we want to talk about performance in Edo State, we'll talk about it as a separate issue. Yes, I also agree that there are questions as to his performance as the governor of Edo State.
All right.
But let's situate issues appropriately. Don't let us muddle things up.
More details on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. We still have so many other stories, so we may have to, cut down, talking time on some of these other stories. We have here on the front page of the Punch newspaper, Nigerians stranded in UK, victims of visa scam. Fuad was saying something about this off air yesterday. As regards what is happening to people. I remember the story of someone that has £10,000 and the person paid to get a work, what's that, skilled work visa.
Visa, yeah. He paid the whole $10,000.
£10,000 for what?
£10,000, sorry. That is $2.
So according to this report, a Nigerian woman who paid £10,000 to an agent for a skilled worker visa was supposed to secure a job as a carer in the UK, and she has been left stranded now. And then she arrived in the UK and there's no job.
Is the person the Bureau of Employment in the agent?
An agent.
I know the argument. The argument on this story, Sandra, is that
Yes.
look, the expression of Nigerians to just want to leave the country. Sandra, as a Nigerian, if you are able to raise £10,000, if you can, well, again, yes, there are challenges to running a business in Nigeria. Things are so tough. But I still know that with £10,000, if you convert that to Naira, you can do a lot of things for yourself in the country. Yes, like I said, we have to acknowledge the fact that there are challenges to running a business or, trying to be an entrepreneur in the country. But the desperation to want to put a whole £10,000 into a travel arrangement and to probably go and be a caregiver or something is why people are talking. But again, it also brings to the fore the idea of Nigerians just wanting to leave the country. I know the number of persons, Sandra. The guys that are doing all these 𝗪𝗪𝗧, they are not the lowest of the lowest. They are not the poor of the poorest. The poor of the poorest will go through the Mediterranean, go through Libya and all of that. But the guys who are able to secure visas to go to Canada, US, UK, on this proper 𝗪𝗪𝗧 arrangement, maybe for education or what have you, are people in the middle class with top good jobs. You see managers of banks doing 𝗪𝗪𝗧, managers.
It's okay. Well, I would also like to highlight something else from this story, Fuad. Is the fact that we have here the founder of the Nigerian Community Center in Rochdale, Mary Adekugwe, saying that a lot of skilled worker visa people are now a big issue for her. And they now need support, and they now have to start rallying support for them, which has become, one way or the other, quite shameful and embarrassing for the Nigerian community in the UK.
A lot of them have become more like, sorry to use the word, destitute in the UK. We've heard of Nigerians sleeping in the streets, some of them sleeping in libraries, roaming around the streets really with nothing to do. And it's becoming a cause for concern for officials in the UK. Recent decision to stop visa owners from maybe bringing their dependents, especially if you are going there to have a master's degree. I think it's only for PhD holders now. Because what they are saying is that one person brings about 20 people as dependents, and it's becoming a problem. They can't fend for them.
Well, more details of that story on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. I'm running a little bit fast now. We have here, still on above the masthead of the Punch, culture minister, still a copper. It's a co-member, group alleges. So the Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria, HURIWA, has accused the Minister of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy, Musawa, of serving as a minister while undertaking the 1-year mandatory National Youth Service Corps scheme.
So what was the screening and all the security checks about?
Documentation.
And the documentation and everything.
Well,
they didn't check whether she has NYC.
I don't know. This is quite embarrassing if you ask me. But then Huriwa is alleging that...
If it is true.
Exactly, if it is true. Huriwa is alleging that years ago, Musawa abandoned her NYSC in Ebonyi State, but she now later showed interest in completing it.
Okay.
So she was mobilized this year, and she was posted to a law firm in Abuja. And that is where she is currently. And that is... I'm with you for what?
If she is still serving, Sandra, if she is still serving,
yeah,
and that's a very big problem. That's a very, very big problem. If she's still serving, because again, like I said, the entire screening process, because again, before they were presented before the National Assembly, we heard that there were security checks and all of that, documentation had happened, and then I expected that before they appeared before the Senate, some form of documentation also have happened. So, what was that entire process about? If they can't detect that, like I said, if it is true that she's still serving.
Well, NYSC has responded. The Director of Press and Public Relations at NYSC headquarters, 𝗳𝗏 confirmed to the cable on Thursday that the minister is a core member. He said, and I'm quoting, yes, she is a serving core member. And that is what the PPRO...
And that's a problem. And that's a problem, because I think for you to become a public official, you must have completed your NY.
Well, some of us could not get some certain jobs because we had not yet served.
So we may be seeing another casualty because it means that she has to be dropped.
Well, she have taken.
Yeah, that's what it means. You know what led to, although that was the forgery and all of that, even 𝗵𝗵𝗍𝗍. No, that was also partially the issue.
Yes.
The fact that maybe she had forged her NYSC certificate, whether she didn't finish or she didn't even attend at all.
But why is this NYSC, such an issue? You have governors as well. Either they have, wrong certificate, or there's no certificate of exemption. Because if you're not going to do the 1 year, yes, you can apply for
exemption.
An exemption and all. But why is this such a... NYSC seems to be an issue.
You understand that you're talking about NYSC. Ordinary school certificate is a problem for our politicians.
Even birth certificate.
Birth certificate, school certificate, things that normal Nigerians do without stress. You don't have situations where there are so many questions as to whether you attended the school or not. I take
exception to that. I did my NYSC with stress, please.
When I say stress, these are things that
I know. I understand.
You're just supposed to do. It's supposed to be a normal thing.
Well.
Look at our government in Ogun State too. Recently, when there was issue whether you finished from 𝗵𝗏 or not, and the back and forth, and I'm sorry that I have to talk about your government again, because some of these things.
There are about 9 states or so in the southwest. Please, kindly focus on that.
What I'm saying is that generally there's this problem with our politicians
and documentation
doing the right thing and document. Why would certificate be a problem? Age is a problem. School start is a problem. NYSC is a problem. Even some of their names, things keep changing. I don't know. Just I don't know anybody who question my own certificate now or anything.
Maybe you should go and check it.
No problem. 100% is intact.
That's all right.
Yeah, why would there be,
Let's move on now. Let's move on now to the Nation newspaper. We can't take any more stories from the Punch, but that story is on page 28 of the Punch newspaper. Let's move on now to the Nation newspaper. The major headline on the front page of the Nation says, Edun, hyperinflation, low GDP per capita to end soon. And there are riders to that says unemployment rate down to 4.1% in first quarter. Our investment drive on course. That's come from Shetima. So Nigerians had a glimpse of the economic outlook yesterday. The federal government stepped up efforts to rein in inflation, increase productivity, and boost savings and investments. The initiative are expected to lead to a general improvement in the average living standards. And we have the story on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Also, moving on now, still on trends in the papers, we have here just on the front page of the Nation newspaper, I'm under pressure. Excuse me. I'm under pressure over Niger junta, says Tinubu. And the writer says, speed up truce talks, President tells Ulama. So, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is under pressure to deploy force in Niger Republic. And that's what he said yesterday. So, just very quickly, a minute.
Anybody can, I'm sure that pressure will not make him cave in. He wants to take a decision that might have dire consequences. The issue of force is going to be the last resort, definitely. I agree that it should not be taken off the table. But I also think that dialogue can resolve this issue. Yeah, you just see, look at even the West with economic sanctions. There are a lot of countries that the West would have gone to war with, but they use sanctions. They keep putting sanctions upon sanctions on them just to avoid a war situation. I think that's what ECOWAS should do. And Nigeria should be careful to be dragged into this war conversation. There's a lot we are dealing with. I agree that we have to be involved with this Niger issue, but war for me is a no-no.
All right. Still on the front page of the Nation, but now above the masthead, we also have here, hold governors accountable for palliatives. And that is coming from the president himself.
And have you been seeing the pictures of palliatives?
Pictures, videos?
Have you been seeing what our politicians are giving to people as palliatives?
Did you see the one with Gary?
Have you been seeing those pictures? I saw Gary. I saw the one from somebody who even bears my name, 𝗂𝗵𝗿𝗆𝗏. If it is true,